Wow, look at everybody else moving forward, and then your brain says, what exactly are you doing? Motion is not the same as direction. You may not be behind. You may just be in a chapter that doesn't make sense yet.
Hard lessons and real wins. Hosted by me, Nick Visoky. All right, let's get into it.
Let's talk about a feeling that quietly ruins a lot of people. Feeling behind. Not tired, not confused, behind. Like somehow everyone else got the map and you got the motivational quote and a bill. That feeling is brutal. All right, welcome back to the channel. And if you ever felt behind in life, then you know this feeling is heavier than most people care to admit, because it follows you everywhere. You can be driving, working, scrolling, standing in line at a store, pretending you just came in for one thing. And suddenly your brain goes, wow, look at everybody else moving forward. They're ahead, they're figuring it out, they're building, they're winning. And then your brain, because it enjoys violence, says, and you? What exactly are you doing? That feeling can mess with you. Because when you feel behind in life, it is not just frustration. It is shame, it is pressure, it is comparison. And it is that quiet panic that says, I should be further along by now. That thought has probably made more people miserable than failure itself. Because here's what happens. When you feel behind, you stop seeing your life clearly. You stop measuring based on truth and you start measuring based on noise. Now you're not asking, what is right for me? Now you're asking, what does it look like everybody else is doing? And that is a dangerous shift, because feeling behind is often not about your life. It's about your position relative to somebody else's highlight reel. And that is where people get trapped. They start building from insecurity instead of alignment. They chase timelines that were never theirs. They force careers, relationships, business moves, and identity decisions just to feel like they're catching up. And that usually ends up great, said no one ever. And let me say something that might help somebody. Feeling behind does not always mean you're behind. Some people are ahead on paper and miserable in private. Some people look stable but feel trapped. Some people hit all the right milestones and still wake up wondering why their life does not feel like theirs. So be careful, because if your definition of ahead is just looks polished from the outside, you might end up envying things you do not actually want. And that happens all the time. People do not just compare themselves to success, they compare themselves to the presentation. And presentation can be full of smoke and mirrors. I think one of the hardest parts of adult life is realizing there's no universal timeline. There's just pressure. Pressure from family, pressure from culture, pressure from social media, pressure from your younger self who apparently thought you would have everything figured out by now. That younger version of you was adorable. Wrong, but adorable. Because real life does not move in a straight line. People pivot, they burn out, they recover, they lose years to fear, they lose years to the wrong path, they lose confidence, then rebuild it, then they lose it again, and then they rebuild it a little bit stronger. That is real life. And real life is usually much messier than the timelines people post about. Here's what I have learned. When you feel behind, your first instinct is usually to speed up. Terrible idea, because panic is not strategy and urgency is not always wisdom. Some of the worst decisions people make come from trying to escape the feeling of being behind. They rush into jobs, they rush into relationships, they rush into business ideas, they rush into proving something. And rushing into buying things they usually cannot afford, just to feel like their life is moving. But motion is not the same as direction. Let me explain. You can be moving fast and still be lost. Matter of fact, some people's whole identity is just running in the wrong direction with confidence. That's not inspiring, that's just cardio. So what do you do if you feel behind? First, you tell the truth, not the dramatic truth, the real truth. Ask yourself, behind compared to what? That question matters. Compared to your values, compared to your actual goals, compared to a timeline that truly fits your life, or compared to random people online who may or may not be one nervous breakdown away from disappearing into a cabin. You have to know the difference. Because if your standard is fake, your pressure will be fake too. And fake pressure creates real damage. Second, ask yourself whether you're actually behind or just uncomfortable, because those get confused all the time. Sometimes you're not behind, you're in the middle. You're in the part where it's unclear. The part where the work is happening underground. The part where your life looks boring, uncertain, or unimpressive from the outside. That does not mean nothing is happening. Seeds look very unproductive for a while. And yeah, I know that sounded inspirational. Please give me a moment, I don't like it either. But it's true. A lot of progress is invisible before it becomes obvious. And if you quit just because your life does not look impressive yet, you may be walking away from a time that was actually building you. Third, stop using other people's milestones to bully yourself. That one is huge. Someone else getting married does not mean you failed. Someone else buying a house does not mean you failed. Someone else making more money does not mean you failed. And someone else looking more established, you know what my next line will be. It means they're on their timeline and you're on yours. And yes, I know that sounds simple, but emotionally it's not simple at all because comparison feels factual when you're hurting. It feels like evidence, but most of the time it's not evidence. It's just pain looking for a conclusion. Here's a better question. What would progress look like for me, honestly, from where I am right now? Not fantasy progress, not fix my entire life by Tuesday progress. Real progress. Maybe progress is paying off debt. Maybe it is healing your mind. Maybe it is leaving the wrong path. Maybe it is getting disciplined. Maybe it is building quietly. Maybe it is finally admitting what is no longer working. Or maybe it is just getting stable enough to think clearly again. That is not small, that is foundational. And foundations are not flashy, but they matter more than almost anything else. See, I think a lot of people feel behind because they're only respecting visible wins, such as money, titles, status, announcement, big moments, and public milestones. But some of the most important wins in life are invisible at first. Learning restraint to getting honest, building discipline, leaving denial, developing peace, and becoming someone who no longer needs to perform every second just to feel okay. Those are serious wins. Quiet wins are still wins. And actually, in a lot of cases, they are the wins that finally make the visible ones sustainable. If you feel behind right now, hear me out. You're not disqualified because your life took longer. You're not less valuable because your path got messy. And you're not failing just because your growth does not look impressive to others. Some people bloom early, and some people bloom after getting absolutely humbled by life 6 or 7 times. Different process, but still valid. And sometimes the people who took longer build deeper because they had to, because delay taught them things that speed never could, because pain made them honest, because rebuilding made them strong in places that shortcuts never touch. Let me make this practical. If you feel behind, do these 3 things. 1, define what ahead actually means to you, not culturally, not performatively, personally. 2, identify one area where you're actually making progress, even if it's not visible yet. Give yourself credit for real movement. And 3, stop treating your current progress like it's your final identity. This chapter is not your whole story. The last one matters. Because people start speaking about temporary seasons like they're the permanent truths. I'm behind, I'm late, I missed it, I wasted too much time. Maybe, maybe not. But you don't know that yet. And life has a funny way of making things connect later that felt pointless in the moment. I really believe that some of the most powerful people you will ever meet are people who looked behind for a period of time. People who got overlooked. People who had to rebuild. People who started later. People who took the long route. People who were underestimated. And people who quietly kept going without the applause, without the clean timeline, without the social proof. These people built differently because they had to stop living for appearance and start living by the truth. And once that happened, everything got stronger. Not easier, but stronger. So if you feel behind in life right now, take a breath. You may not be behind. You may just be in a chapter that doesn't make sense yet. And if that's where you are, that doesn't make you broken. That makes you human. Stay in motion. Stay honest. Stay grounded. Don't build from panic. Don't measure from insecurity. Don't let somebody else's timing become your identity. Your job is not to have a perfect timeline. Your job is to build a life that's actually yours. And sometimes that takes longer. Accept it. Better longer and real than fast and fake. Alright, if this connected with you, go ahead and drop a comment below, and a thumbs up would be appreciated. And if you know someone who needs this, go ahead and send it to them. Also, if you would like a deeper story behind on how I learned these lessons, I did write a short book, and that's called When the Engine Caught Fire. It really is about chaos, rebuilding, hard lessons, and how all of it can turn into something meaningful. I'll put the link in the description below. And if you're here for real conversations about rebuilding, pressure, money, discipline, and long-term wins, subscribe, because we're not building this channel on fake confidence. We're building it on truth. And I'll see you at the next one. Thank you for watching. Good morning.
Good morning.
Is that a cup of coffee or a bowl of soup?
No, it's coffee. I'm coming back to 1 cup a day.
Hey, so I know we have this meeting coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Any chance I can copy your notes afterwards?
As long as you buy lunch, of course.
Jeez.
Don't worry. I got you covered.
Hey, so you want to know why I love Fridays?
Why?
Not because the weekend is coming up, but because it's payday. Oh man, I think I'm going to need a raise.
You TGIF.
Oh, come on.